Welcome to Intro2Astro 2024.
So my name is Joshua Lieberman. I am a graduate student at the University of Arizona, and today I will be presenting on summer research opportunities. So just to briefly outline this talk, I'm going to start by going over why pursue a summer research opportunity at all. And then I'm going to get into what advisors are looking for and how you can kind of market or promote yourself and even use this self-promotion method to identify research opportunities that may not even be advertised. I'm then going to get into formal summer research programs. And finally, I'm going to go over and I'm going to review an overview of these research programs, particularly their applications, go over the timeline, and then just highlight some final tips when pursuing a summer research opportunity. So why look for a summer research opportunity at all? Well, it's a great place to get your first exposure to research. So oftentimes little experience is required, and it's a really great opportunity to decide whether or not to pursue a research career further, because really you won't know whether or not you want to do research as a job until you've actually experienced it. So this is a great opportunity to do that. And then also, really all research experience at the undergrad level, I feel, is good experience because you can apply it to really to any field, not just astronomy. And additionally, these research experiences can be a lot of fun. You can make friends with other interns or researchers who have similar science interests, and you can kind of build a community within your field through these research opportunities. So now I'm just going to briefly touch on what advisors are looking for in an undergraduate researcher. And one of the most important things is just to have a dedication and willingness to learn. And because you're all here participating in Intro2Astro, you've already demonstrated this important step. So now I'm going to get into how can we show these research advisors, how can we show them this dedication or willingness to learn? And so one method that I used that was very effective, and it might seem a bit unorthodox at first, but just bear with me. So I used this method to obtain research opportunities that weren't necessarily listed online by essentially marketing myself. And what that looks like is first, you identify a researcher whose interests align with yours. So that may mean looking up a research topic that interests you, browsing some papers in the field that you've learned how to do through Intro2Astro, and noting the authors that have, and additionally, searching the directory at your current institution. Are there professors doing similar research to what you are interested in? And then you can, once you've done this, you can send those researchers or professors an email directly, what people would refer to as a cold email. And this, I feel, is kind of an underutilized method of pursuing research opportunities in the field, particularly as an undergrad. But I think it's a really valuable method to practice and very simple. Additionally, it demonstrates this motivation or initiative. Additionally, it's a great way to stand out as an applicant or as an interested researcher in undergrad. There's no application necessary required to send an email. And additionally, you don't have to be a US citizen to practice this method, as a lot of the research opportunities that I'll highlight later are US based and often require that you be a US citizen. But of course, the con with this method is that let's say you do identify a researcher, or there is a researcher who's interested in bringing you on. This doesn't necessarily guarantee a research position with funding, whereas the summer research programs I talk about later, if you get those, they are guaranteed to have funding. So what does this email look like? Well, so here I want to share with you a template very similar to what I would use to obtain research opportunities when I was an undergrad. And I can personally vouch for this just because I used this method to obtain research opportunities at institutions like the Keck Observatory and California Institute of Technology. So in this first section, what I'm doing here is I'm stating my intent. So you're going to state, of course, your name, what year you are as an undergrad, your institution, and then you're going to basically highlight that you're applying for these summer research positions in astronomy, and particularly you can highlight a subfield that the researcher is involved in, which I found in my experience would often pique their interest. And additionally, this last line is another great way of really making yourself stand out when you're sending these emails. And it's you can use your skills again in reading papers and highlight a particular paper or research project that this professor or researcher was involved with. And that's a really great way of getting into the research in that particular field. And so then in this next paragraph is where you basically summarize your experiences. And you can think of this as like an abridged version of your CV in email form. So you highlight what makes you a valuable candidate. And additionally, so in this example, I'm highlighting the Intro to Astronomy research workshop. And what I've also found to be valuable in this cold email approach is to name the researchers that you've worked with, because you never know if oftentimes the person you're emailing will know of these researchers, and then you already have a strong connection in that field, and that will increase the likelihood that this professor responds and offers you a position. And so then basically just in the end, you're going to restate your interest. So I'm just providing another example of that template, but filled in. So I'm just using as an example, Professor Fei Dai, and I'm writing a template as if I'm applying to summer research programs in exoplanet astronomy. And I highlighted a particular project that Professor Dai worked on involving test photometry of ultra short period planets. And in this second paragraph, I'm highlighting my experiences that are relevant to this work. You'll probably want to go into a bit more detail than I provide in your actual email, but I'm highlighting the relevant experiences that I learned from this research workshop involving the my work with test data. And additionally, I'm highlighting various hard skills like programming languages I know, as well as soft skills like ability to read scientific literature and web development. So all things you have learned over the course of this workshop. And then finally, I just changed the last section a bit. One thing that's helpful is even if this professor isn't able to offer you a position, they might know someone else who will. So oftentimes it can be useful to just ask this professor or researcher if anyone else they know, if they're looking for summer interns. So I encourage you all after over the next week, just as an exercise, to try sending out one of these emails expressing interest in a research project to a professor, either at your institution or at an outside institution, and feel free to share the outcome in the Discord. So and then just one key thing to remember regarding this approach is really just don't sell yourself short. That oftentimes as undergrads, we feel like we don't have as much experience as we actually do. But even just through this workshop alone, you've already learned a ton of skills that make you marketable as a researcher that you can highlight in your applications. So moving on to, these are more, I guess, at least in the US, these are well-known summer research programs to highlight. Although with the important caveat that two of these three really are limited to US citizens. So the first is called the REU. It's funded by the National Science Foundation. And these are called research experiences for undergrads. The second one, SURF, is a summer undergraduate research fellowship. And the particular example to highlight for SURF is Caltech, where they offer a SURF program hiring multiple researchers a year, or hiring multiple researchers over the summer. And with this one, it's important to point out that you don't need to be a US citizen to apply. And additionally, the application process for the SURF in particular looks a bit different in that you apply together with an advisor at the institution, in the case of Caltech. And that's where, again, that emailing method I showed, that really helps, because you can reach out to a researcher you're interested in working with, and then they can help you on this SURF application. And then finally, I want to highlight that NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, they hire hundreds of undergraduate interns every summer. So there are a lot of opportunities there to get experience as a researcher. However, this is these internships are more difficult to obtain as a foreign national. Although I do know of a few cases of interns from abroad working at JPL. So now, so here are a few examples of where you can find these opportunities. And again, these slides will be posted after the workshop. And so these three just link to the programs I talked about. And then this fourth one is a really valuable database for looking for research opportunities, mainly in the US, I believe, but it's called Pathways to Science. And I highly recommend browsing this, because it's a very valuable research resource for finding positions both during the school year and over the summer. And additionally, I highly encourage you to look into summer research experiences at your own institution. And again, you can send these emails of expressing your interest in a certain professor's research. Additionally, many institutions also offer summer funding opportunities. And these are great resources to utilize in cases where you're offered an internship, but the researcher isn't able to pay you. And so in this way, you can get your home institution to pay for the internship. So just going over the general components of one of those applications that I listed, being, say, REU, SURF, or the JPL application. Typically, at least for REUs, the applications are posted in the fall, and they're due around early February. And a typical application will require a written statement summarizing your interest in research experiences, as well as your CV or resume, and then a few recommendation letters along with unofficial transcripts. And you'll often receive a decision around March or April, and these summer programs in particular will often start in late May or early June. So regarding the recommendation letters, because this is often challenging for undergrads who are first starting out. So just a few pieces of advice. One is that when you're asking for a recommendation letter, it's important to ask for the letter early. And some examples of people you can ask for recommendation letters are professors you recently took a course with, or maybe previous research mentors you've had, or even employers in your work. And So in asking for these recommendation letters, you'll typically want to write a polite email and stating what program you're applying for and when the deadline is. And additionally, it's valuable in requesting a recommendation letter to the writer to remind them of your connection. So highlight, and this is also in this email, this is an opportunity to highlight certain elements that you want the writer to talk about. So if you are part of a large class/research group, maybe you can highlight a certain project you worked on or a particular assignment to help the professor kind of remember who you are and also write a more valuable recommendation letter. So just a few final pieces of advice regarding seeking research opportunities. I encourage you to look for opportunities early. I feel really it's never too early to start looking or asking around. Again, the worst that can happen, particularly with that email approach, is you just don't get a response. Or the professor might say, just email me back in a few months when I have more of an idea of whether or not I'm offering. And also, it's important through this process to keep an open mind. I highlighted before searching for research positions that you're interested in, but really it's hard to really know exactly whether or not you're interested in a certain field until you actually start doing it. So keep that in mind while you're applying as well, where even if an advisor is conducting research or you're applying for a position that isn't exactly in the field you are interested in, you may still end up really enjoying it. So that's a valuable thing to keep in mind. And finally, as I've kind of alluded to before, it's important to tailor your application to the position you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying to a position doing exoplanet research, it's more valuable to highlight your related experiences in that particular field. And finally, just stay curious. This will serve you really well as a researcher moving forward and help you remain excited about your research for years to come. So yeah, that's it. And I want to thank you for listening.
Register now on bit.ly/Intro2Astro 2024.